You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA. You know ID in the town all day. ID in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to episode 504 of the Fabulous Peltoncast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
We're coming to you in separate locations today. I'm in Seattle, Washington, home of the AL West champion Mariners. I forgot for a second there.
About which thing?
about which team I was supposed to identify. Four-time champion, WNBA champion Storm. I don't know. It could be many things.
And I'm coming to you from Brent, Washington, home of the Super Bowl 60 champion Seattle Seahawks.
Hello.
A few less of them this week. I was like, 504, that's a thing. And it's like plans that students have for disabilities in schools.
Yeah, I don't know. It does seem like a very familiar number, but I'm not sure what the familiarity actually is. And then I thought, Nick Collison episode? You're questioning that?
The 500? No, that's fine.
Well,
I'm questioning a little bit, actually. I've got beef with Nick Collison.
Mr. Oklahoma City?
Yeah.
Look.
I will tell you, I'm still not over it. The important thing about a grudge is to hold it forever.
I mean, Nick Collison remained a Seattle resident long after he played for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
He moved back to Seattle?
I mean, he maintained a summer residence here, yeah. How else was he going to go to Safe?
Oh, it's easy to be here in the summer. Come on.
Well, I agree with that. Look, not all of us could be here for the hail in March.
I'm here in March.
Do you remember? So this came up on the Discord last week. Someone posted the photo of Desmond Mason had a tip dunk.
Do I remember? This is the only thing I remember. Anyway,
okay,
what are you going to say?
Against the Charlotte Hornets in 2002.
In the snowstorm, yes.
And as we drove back, apparently it was not just a snowstorm, because I looked this up to confirm my memory. It was thunder snow.
Thunder snow. Every time the children talk about thunder snow, I do that. It's my favorite set of words together.
If we have a hydroplane, maybe, obviously it's going to be the Miss Pelton.
How has there not been an 80s metal band called Thunder Snow?
Because I don't think it had been invented yet in the 80s.
There was no thunder snow in the
80s? Well, they keep inventing all sorts of new meteorological things to keep us interested.
I mean, I'm interested. Mission accomplished. If they're making up thunder snow, the answer is yes.
I don't think convergence zones existed until at least 1988.
What?
That's a joke. Obviously, they did.
We were driving you back to UW, right?
That is correct.
And then Jan had to drive in the snow, which is not top 10 things Jan doesn't like to do the most.
Oh, that is top one.
Number one. Jan driving in the snow is a thing she does not like to do.
It's top two and it's not two.
That happened in that car driving back. I think I had the next day off school also. I can't remember. I remember the
Seattle Public Schools had the day off. That was what in the story I saw. It was
Highline
the latest.
Schools didn't.
No, I mean, I just don't think they were as concerned with Highline schools.
I think maybe Highline was on though. I think it was one of those days, when it's snowing overnight and you're like, woo, like snow day, yes. But then you wake up, woo. You wake up and then you're like, where the fuck did the snow go?
No, I think the snow still existed. I mean, clearly it did in the city of Seattle.
Okay. There was at least one time that I remember driving you home where there was a snowstorm and the snow was gone. This one, I do remember there was a late March snowstorm though in that game and having the day off, and we made a snowman in the backyard.
But according to the story that I read about it, the latest school closure in recorded Seattle schools history, like in terms of in the month. I mean, obviously, yeah. They just kept going right through the COVID pandemic.
Bam.
Which also we are coming up on the anniversary of, right?
Well, I think we're past the anniversary of that, but
the March 11th was the day, isn't it?
That's the day? For me, I have all sorts of days. To me, February 29th is the day.
There's only one. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but there's only one day the NBA got canceled. Yeah. So
a tip dunk was awesome, though. Anyway,
tip dunk was great.
All that is to say, my grudge is still held. I was still there cheering. I watched the very end of the Nuggets Thunder game, not Thunder Snow. Thank you. I watched the very end of the Nuggets Thunder game, and I saw the Shea 3, and I was so upset about it.
Eric Snow never played for Oklahoma City. That would have been Thunder Snow.
Every announcer really wants Shea Gilgeous-Alexander to be interesting, but it's not going to happen. they were like going on and on, being like, he's so fun to watch. And I'm like, he made one good play. One play. Get out of here. The rest were fucking free throws.
Yeah, I have no comment on this. I have a snarky comment that is pro SGA, but I'm going to save that. So, well, we start this week on a somber note. Our thoughts are with former UW and Rogers High School defensive tackle Dan Milston and his family, who made public last week Milston's diagnosis was stage 4 invasive colon adenocarcinoma and high-grade neuroendocrine carcinoma, the former a highly aggressive form of cancer and the latter an extraordinarily rare one. Milston played at UW from 2002 through 2005 and saw his career end following a broken left leg and dislocated ankle during his first season as a starter. A GoFundMe jointly organized with his family and former Husky teammate Jordan Reffett has raised more than $85,000 so far. So we'll have a link to that in the post notes, and obviously hoping for the best for Dan Milston and his family. On a happier note, congrats to UW men's basketball's Hannes Steinbach, who became the 3rd Husky men's basketball player to record a 2020 game last week. In a game you obviously were following closely, a win over USC. Can you name the 2 other Huskies with a 2020 game? That is correct.
2 others.
Do you specifically remember this?
No, Luca told me he had no idea who Noah Dickerson was, and I said, learn basketball.
Wow. Wow.
I was like, you don't remember Noah Dickerson from before you were born?
Is this because they don't have but he would know college football players from before he was born.
I think it might be the whole University of Washington men's basketball program.
Well, but I was going to say
might be the problem.
I was going to say the lack of a men's college basketball video game that is compelling.
I don't know. I guess I do agree that probably, what years did Noah Dickerson play here? He probably would know quite a few. He
was well after Luca was born that he graduated, yeah. I'm pretty sure. Noah Dickerson finished up in 2019, right? Because he was part of the last NCAA tournament team at UW, right?
I do think historical football players are just more relevant than historical basketball players.
Okay. Yeah, so you got one of them.
Okay. Is it not Todd McCullough, right?
It is Todd McCullough. Noah Dickerson was definitely the harder one to get.
Perfect.
So
well, I'd seen that when he got the 20 and 20 over the weekend. So
pinball wizard Todd McCullough.
Todd McCullough was the one that I guessed.
The 24 rebounds were the most by a Husky since 1977. The kind of surprising thing about that stat, by the way, is I don't know. I guess I have never looked up Bob Hubriggs' rebounding stats. He was such a dominant player. And
you haven't looked up Bob Hubriggs' rebounding stats? There
were so many rebounds in the 1950s that I would have just assumed he had a 2020 somewhere in there.
Call yourself a statistician.
James Edwards. Well, I was too busy looking back at the precedent for Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points in a game.
What is the precedent for Bam Adebayo scoring? I feel like it should be post-pod talk. Yeah, I know it's none. Why did you have to look that up? You could have asked me, is there any precedent for Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points in a game? Literally scored the second most points of all time. So there's obviously not a precedent for it.
Bob Hubriggs averaged 11.5 rebounds per game as a senior, 10.6 as a junior. So it is kind of surprising, all things considered. I mean, he averaged 25.4.
The combination of 20 and 20. He probably
he averaged 25.6 points per game. So that part was, he had that on lock. And he averaged as many rebounds per game as Hannes Steinbach did. So, or is.
Wait, what was the looking up that you did about Bam Adebayo?
I didn't actually do any looking up. That was an exaggeration.
Okay, I was going to say, what would you have looked at?
The thing I looked up is Asia Wilson's highest scoring games relative to her boyfriend Bam Adebayo's previous to today. Because she'd scored more points than him twice in a game beforehand. His high was, he'd only scored 40 points once in a game. And he's
probably going to have this one forever.
I think, if Asia Wilson gets 83 in a 40-minute game, I'm going to be very impressed.
Luke, there was just so much going on sports-wise. The thing that we'll talk about later.
There was a lot. Then
Santa Clara versus Gonzaga, as many of us were dialed in on.
There was nothing about it in the timeline. I didn't even think about it until long after the game was finished.
I was flipping back and forth between the two. And then Luca texted me, as we were walking in the house, oh my God, Bam Adebayo just dropped 83, for real. And I was like, I should
have put it in the group chat. That was my bad. Should have alerted you to
Well, I
this.
pulled up like the ESPN app to look at the score of Santa Clara Gonzaga, of course, because I'm a normal person and because I hold grudges forever.
You have made that clear.
Literally at this very evening, Kayleen was like, Gonzaga's fine. I like them. She was defending Gonzaga. And I was like, they are bad and they are bad people. I was like, Mark Few turned in Lorenzo Romar for recruiting violations. He is scum. And so I was just like, that is not a grudge I'm going to let go. What year do you think that happened?
Well, I can tell you what years it didn't happen. No, it was over Josh Heitfeld, of all people.
Oh,
And it was right after Romar had taken the job. So I want to say 2003 or 2004.
exactly. Recent memory.
Like it was so early that UW players were still transferring to Gonzaga rather than all the good players just going to Gonzaga in the first place.
They keep showing on the fucking WBC broadcasts. There's all these ads for a Tubi documentary called like "The Slipper Still Fits" about.
I have seen that, yes.
I am chagrined every time I see it. They have not won a national championship. Is that right?
That is correct. I've got some
Zero.
very bad news for you about how many
Zero.
men's basketball.
I'm just saying that you can. I feel like to be a Cinderella, and to even have this documentary made about you, it's basically like a pretty good team, right? 54%. That's what they've accomplished.
54%. What percentage of the games do you think that Mark Few has won in his career?
Well, I mean, come on. When you look at the records
Okay,
in the WCC, Santa Clara was 15-3 in the WCC.
What percentage of major conference games? I mean, it would take me a minute to look this up. What do you think their record is in major conference games this year?
This year?
Yeah.
They've probably lost 2 of them.
Well, they lost to Michigan. So
I know they got crushed by Michigan.
But that was their only one because their other 2 losses were in conference, including the Portland loss, which remains
I remember that one. Grudges held.
Okay, so they beat Oklahoma,
they're not
Arizona State, Alabama, who was number 8 at the time.
I couldn't even tell you how good
I didn't count Creighton, who was
that's
ranked.
not a major conference team. No way.
That's why I said I didn't count it.
It's not really fair that you're counting Arizona State either.
Well, Big 12 is the best basketball conference. What are you talking about?
Come on.
Maryland, they beat by 39 points. Kentucky, they beat by 35. They were only ranked number 18, though, so I don't know how you count it. And then UCLA was ranked number 25 at the time. They beat by 10.
Saying,
Oregon.
The slipper still fits.
I mean,
at some point,
I agree that they are no longer a Cinderella. When you get like Chet Holmgren and Jalen Suggs come to you, you are no longer a Cinderella. But to say that it's not impressive that a school of their, campus size.
No, 54% over a 20-year period is great. It's just like they've been a really solid team.
Let's see, Mark
Few. It's nice. It is nice for them.
We don't have the conference record. I would like to know that. I mean, it's 83% overall. So I'm sure it's a little lower, but I bet it's north of 70%.
Scared to even go to the Big 12.
I would love for UW men's basketball to win 54% of their games.
I'm sure that they do win 54% of their games.
But not in the Danny Sprinkle era.
Oh, God.
What was Mike Hopkins' career record? It probably was. I mean, they won a lot of games the first 2 years.
Mike Hopkins' early years definitely looking pretty favorable compared to Danny Sprinkles.
I mean, he inherited a lot better team. Overall, he won 53% of his games at UW.
Mike Hopkins did?
Yeah.
Wow. Jerry DePoto would be chagrined.
It's almost like they're wildly different sports and structures.
No, it's actually way worse in college basketball. Like in baseball, it's a good thing to win 54%. In college basketball, you should win way more. Yeah.
Romar won 60% of his games career.
There we go.
So, and topped 54% in 2016.
I feel like the more that we talk about Husky men's basketball, we just need to talk about 20 years ago.
Oh. Yes, we do.
It's like really like obviously not professional basketball in Seattle, but men's basketball in Seattle is just like a time capsule of the 90s and the early 2000s.
It really is.
Right?
Yep. That is 100% accurate in totality.
That's it.
Thankfully, women's basketball has a couple of really good moments in there, but it's not far from that. I was getting nostalgic for a much earlier period today. So they had the uh wait, why am I blanking now? Bill McCartney documentary, the 30 for 30 on him was on ESPNU that was on in the background today. And it reminded me of a play that I'd forgotten the context of that is one of the earliest football plays I remember, which is the 1990 Orange Bowl, played on New Year's Day, 1991. Rocket Ishmael for Notre Dame returns a punt for a touchdown against Colorado, called back for a block in the back, and Colorado hangs on to win the game.
Really?
And I have like such a distinct memory of watching this at our grandparents' house upstairs because our parents were at the Rose Bowl that day. So we were staying with our grandparents. And the reason it was so important to us, UW would have had an outside chance in the national championship if Colorado had lost. Colorado won the national championship despite losing a game, tying a game, and winning a third game by virtue of an extra fifth down. I don't think you remember this controversy.
I do remember there being a fifth down play. I could have told you which team it was. Wait,
Yeah.
so where did UW finish?
I believe they finished third ultimately because Georgia Tech was undefeated that year and just like didn't play nobody, Paul. But UW did receive some first place
Huskies?
votes. Yes, the year before the shared national
It
championship.
looks like they finished fifth. AP coaches fifth, AP fifth.
I mean, I don't know why. I mean, they got first place votes, so it would have been plausible.
I mean, they only lost that freaking loss against UCLA at home by 3. It's a brutal loss.
Yes, and they notably also lost that year to Colorado.
I have no recollection of this game at all, but
I mean, you were like 5.
They should have won that game though.
The 1990 Colorado game?
No, the UCLA game.
Oh, yes. No, they were
Colorado.
Yeah, no, they were huge favorites. Like they were where did they reach in the polls at that point? Do you see that?
UW was number 2.
Yeah. So
well, now I'm retroactively upset about this too.
Mark Brunell, as good as he eventually would be, especially in the NFL, 47% completion percentage in 1990. Oof. Not ideal.
They did turn it around by beating. Well, just like all these games, they didn't even really play a close game for a lot of the season. Then they just right after went. That probably was an okay Wazoo team, right? And beat them 55-10.
I mean, I guess Drew Bledsoe would be like a freshman there.
Oh, no, they were 3-8, that Wazoo team, but.
Yeah, that was Drew Bledsoe's first season. He was also under 50% completions.
Under defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer.
That's wild. All right. Well, that's been remembering the distant past.
Distant past.
Let's look ahead to the future with the help of your favorite segment.
From playing stickball in the streets of Brooklyn to the Yankee Clipper, Yogi Berra, Mike Piazza, and Phil Rizzuto. And Mariners legends like the late, great John Marzano, Paul Sorrento, Sam Onofrio, Dominic Canizone, Miles Mastrobuoni, and of course, Matt Festa, and hell, even Tommy LaStella. Baseball has always been dominated by Italians and Italian Americans, and they are now ready to show that on an international stage as they gave a big ciao to Team USA and turncoat Roman Anthony. Cal Raleigh is going to be giving a big handshake to the darkness after the U.S. is eliminated prematurely from the World Baseball Classic, especially hearing that their manager, Mark DeRosa, thought that they had clinched a spot in the next round, proving why only catchers get to be managers. Francisco Cervelli would never. And they did it the Italian way tonight, with a combo of defensiveness. You looking at me? Interspersed by loud and wild outbursts of power. Hey! All while sipping on fine cups of cappuccino. Caesar himself would have been proud if he knew what baseball was. So you're on watch, rest of world. The sun never sets on the Italia World Baseball Classic Club, because that performance tonight was molto bene. Forza Italia. Woo! It was the most fun I've had watching baseball since August.
My wife came in and like, you're watching baseball? And I'm like, there is only one scenario that will get me to put on
I will tell you, I was as amped up about this game as I was Game 7 against the Blue Jays.
Okay, I know I was definitely not that amped up.
It was like it had everything that you wanted in it, right? It had the David versus Goliath story. When you look at the American lineup, and then
Did
you
the
look on
slipper
the
still
other side,
fit?
the slipper still fits. You look on the other side, and the Italian roster is really just some guys. And to have won that game, the outs they got against Aaron Judge, the catch in the were you watching that catch in the outfield?
Wait, in the
Where the left fielder and the center fielder both
Yes.
went for it. Oh
Yes.
my god, it was
was
one of the greatest catches I've ever
a little
seen.
reminiscent of Game 7 of the World Series.
That's what they said. I wasn't watching.
You have no idea what happened.
I know. I might have seen this play. I was at a Halloween party.
I mean, I've seen it twice because I don't know if I mentioned this on the pod. At my in-laws' house on Christmas Day, there was some rewatching of Game
They
7.
rewatched Game 7 of the World Series.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what we're gonna do. 7 Fishes, Italian team beating the USA in the World Baseball Classic every Christmas Eve. We'll be like, gather around, children.
No, Feast of 8 Fishes, one for each run they scored.
There
on
we
the
go.
USA.
There it is. Feast of 8 Fishes. This game was so much fun.
It also was like, it felt weirdly like rooting against the Yankees by virtue of Aaron Judge being the guy to decide it and Cal Raleigh not being involved in the game at all, just as a bystander.
I'm really like, my emotional attachment to Cal Raleigh, I feel like has diminished a little bit over this offseason. We need him back in that Mariner uniform. Because when I see that first time, I think
all
might
the
be
sporting
hitting
events.
0. I think he might be hitting 0 this World Baseball Classic.
That's fine.
I will tell you, if I'm making any bold predictions, if I was like the Seattle Times and did bold predictions.
I must confess something.
What?
I called one of their predictions not that bold, and it turned out that it was in fact the same as one of my bold predictions.
Wow. Calling yourself out.
I am. Look,
What was
that's
that?
the accountability.
What their floor is 90 wins or something?
One of the bold predictions was the Mariners will win 95 games.
Name the day Kate Anderson gets called up. That's bold, Seattle Times.
You might need to take the over on that one now. I don't know. Katie Anderson cooking.
Give us a specific number of aces, Seattle Times. Then we'll talk. Anyway.
What about a specific definition of aces?
I will tell you. I'm taking the under on a lot of the bold predictions with regard to Cal Raleigh.
Oh, do we do bold Cal Raleigh predictions?
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay. I didn't think so.
The stocks. It is so funny how this can happen with players because, like, who knows? We might be wrong. Julio, literally, I feel like the expectations for Julio are like, if he's not the best hitter in the league, people will be a little bit let down.
I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. is pretty good.
What? Bobby Witt Jr.? The guy who can't even hit against us amazing Italians?
I mean, he did have 2 hits today. He did hit. Aaron Judge was the guy who couldn't hit against the Americans.
Good job with your 2 hits and your 6 runs. We scored 8.
Well, the 6 runs are a problem. The home run that Pete Crow Armstrong hit in the 9th inning, while it didn't ultimately matter to the win or loss, it is hugely important to the tiebreaker because the Italian, I was going to call them the Mariners, the Italians.
That's right. They got 2
not
of them,
wrong.
don't they? They got 2 of them.
Jerry DiPoto, he's
the
out
same
there
as the USA
scouting.
team has, right?
Jerry DiPoto's out there scouting the Italian national team roster.
Come on, Matt Festa's still a Mariner. He's a Mariner in our heart.
I like how generous it was to say Italians and Italian Americans, as if there's been like a lot of great Italian-born MLB players. I think they were all Italian Americans, the people you listed. Anyways, the Italians allowed 6 runs.
I just didn't want to leave out all the great actual Italians on this roster.
Mexico.
I felt like that would be disrespectful.
Fair. Mexico, despite losing to the U.S., only allowed 3 runs in their game. So now, if Mexico beats Italy, it would potentially, between the U.S. and Italy, come down to runs allowed.
We just need a low-scoring game.
Yes.
I mean, Italy had not given up a run before this game.
I mean, let's see. Mexico did give up 2 runs to Great Britain. I think it is kind of a huge disadvantage. So the Italy-Mexico is the final game of this group.
Oh, no, they had given up a run. They gave up runs to Great Britain, 7-4. I thought they hadn't given up any.
Well, it doesn't matter anyway, because it's only the games between the tied teams that matter in terms of the runs allowed tiebreaker, which I assume they used because
Oh, I
otherwise,
see. It's only the games between those teams.
correct.
I see. That makes sense now.
Which I assume they used because otherwise there would be incentive to like avoid the mercy rule, and so that you could rack up more runs offensively. There'd be some really weird incentives
It is
potentially.
straight up children's baseball tournament stuff that's going on.
Is that what is that how they do it? Oh, so
Runs
you're
allowed.
the only one who knows this.
Runs allowed is usually the tiebreaker.
You're ahead of DeRosa on this one, is what you're telling me.
I mean, they don't usually do runs like they don't do runs allowed per inning. They just do like it would be way too complicated. Look, the people who are running children's baseball are not figuring out that shit right now.
Well, if someone
But, like,
gets run ruled, that team is out of it. So I think we don't have to worry about that particular element.
they just do pure runs allowed also against every team. But that's why Italy was at 0 though, because when they were talking about it, Italy had not given up
Correct.
any runs to the US.
Yes. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I feel like it is a disadvantage that Italy has to play these games back to back. Mexico played the U.S. on Monday night, had Tuesday night off.
Aaron Nola on the bump though.
So it's going to be a very intriguing matchup. I did not expect to be so invested in the World Baseball Classic. So shouts to the Italy team.
I don't have
Enjoy.
Tubi. Is Tubi a thing that you need to subscribe to?
Oh, this was the what tomorrow's game was on Tubi. I thought that was a reference to the UW men's basketball game, which is not.
It's on something way worse than Tubi.
It's on Peacock. And presumably also NBC Sports Network for Comcast subscribers.
The
But
UW
you're not going to want to watch that.
Big Ten tournament game is on some channel called For Sickos Only. It just says "don't" next to it.
I was legitimately upset. I could not find. I mean, it ended up not mattering because I was watching.
No,
the
Santa Clara didn't win. It's okay.
WBC. No, the Blazers and the Hornets were playing tonight, which ended up being a 2-point game.
I like that you're like, I had the fish guy. You're trying to watch the play. There's all this stuff happening. Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points.
Well, it was
Italy's
after the
defeating
Bam
the US.
Adebayo game. I
The
obviously
important
caught
Santa
the
Clara
end of that.
Gonzaga game all of us were locked in on. You're like, I needed to watch Hornets versus Blazers. I heard the Blazers lost though, actually.
They did, yes. But I've got a very soft spot in my heart for the Buzz City Killers, as Brian Windhorst has taken to calling them. We do shouts to the emotional listener Sean Kramer. Want to shout out Seattle Prep alum Stuart Fairchild, who has hit 2 home runs for Taiwan in the World Baseball Classic. So, Mariners Spring Training. After we recorded last week, they gave up a record 27 runs to the Padres
There it
last
is.
Thursday.
Whatever. Give up it doesn't matter. Have fun. Give up some runs.
The most in a Cactus League game in the span where they've been tracked, which goes back to 2000. But yes, it does not matter. They do not go by runs allowed differential or anything. So
we like the Hornets.
Yeah.
Okay. You said that like, of course I should know that we like the Hornets.
The Hornets are like the league pass team.
Are they? Because it because of Khan or the whole team?
And because of Del Curry and Eric Collins, a terrific broadcast duo that has not had a lot of excitement to call in recent years. I mean, we're excited to see LaMelo having a good season. So, and Moussa Diabate and the Moosiers, we're very in on the Moosiers.
The Moosiers. Steph has to make his way there eventually, right?
I don't know. He's probably going to retire in GS Dub, but could be. Shall we round up?
Of course.
Well, you know, the other event you were following in the past week was the NHL trade deadline, obviously, as a lifelong Kraken fan. That was last Friday, and the Kraken traded for, I put it here, Blue Jays. I've got them on the mind. Maple Leafs winger Bobby McMahon, who had spent the last 3+ years in Toronto, headed towards career highs with 19 goals and 13 assists this season. His 32 points would rank tied for 6th on the Kraken, who gave up a 2027 second-round pick and a 4th-round pick this year to get McMahon, who has yet to make his debut while dealing with visa issues. Kraken also agreed to a 2-year extension on deadline day with captain Jordan Eberle, which will take him through age 37. The original member of the Kraken, Eberle, 2nd in franchise history in goals, 3rd in assists. All the Kraken's advanced stats remain terrible, and they have been in a little bit of a tailspin lately now. I think 3 consecutive losses that has kept them. It has now moved them outside the playoff spots.
Wrong.
They're still tied for 8th.
Wild card. I feel like you're cheering for them to be out of the playoffs. There's something about this that you, as a statistical minded person, just gets upset about them being in there. But guess
Well,
what? We're here and we're here to stay.
I also just think it's like bad for the team to think they're good when they're actually maybe the worst team in the league.
They're
That I
tied
think
in
is a
points with the
problem.
Kings, but they have played one less game.
They
Thank
do
you.
have the game in hand on the Kings.
The Kings' goal differential is -23.
But
There's
like the
just
Kraken
no
are
other
very
good
lucky
teams.
to have the goal differential than they. Yes, I agree that the West. I mean, the Ducks are leading the Pacific Division with a -7 goal differential, which is truly bonkers. They need some more tanking teams in the NHL so that these teams can build up their records. Seattle Sounders got a 1-0 win
You're
Saturday.
gonna get aggregated for that.
NHL needs more taking teams.
Yeah.
No one's listening to the roundup. You know that.
Oh yeah, that's
1-0
not even
wins.
me. Most weeks.
I'll tell you about Bobby McMahon in 2 weeks, and you'll be like, I've never heard that name before in my life.
Wait, who's Bobby? Is that the player the Kraken traded for?
Yes.
You think I remember his name?
Like a goldfish.
The problem is you talk about things, and then I'm like looking up other stuff while it's happening. And I'm like, this is a nice time for you to be talking, but I'm not listening that much necessarily. I know that they traded for a player from the Maple Leafs. And they extended Jordan Eberle, and you hate the team.
Yes. No, I do not hate the team. Hart Sounders got a 1-0 win Saturday at St. Louis SC. Big takeaway here that Yaimar Gomez Andrade left early with a right hamstring injury that looks like it'll keep him out of the lineup for a period here. For the second time in 3 games this season, an injury sub ended up scoring for the Sounders, this time Kalani Kosa-Rienzi, just after halftime, with a pretty clinical finish for a defender from the top of the 18.
Hello.
The only goal in this one. Another injury for the Sounders, Hassani Dotson is now in concussion protocol. Poor timing ahead of a 3-week match starting 3-match week, I should say, starting Thursday, beginning with a Cascadia Cup clash, easy for you to say, at Vancouver and continuing at San Jose with the Heritage Cup. Both of those teams are perfect so far with +7 and +6 goal differentials, respectively, for the Whitecaps and the Earthquakes. So going to be a tough one for the Sounders as they continue this extended road trip. I think if they can, if they get 3 points out of these 2 games, that's a pretty good outcome. 2 points is totally understandable. That's maybe the goal.
I was trying to decide if Kalani Kosa-Rienzi was of Italian descent.
No, I don't believe he is. I
think he's of partial Chinese descent. But he did go to UW, so
yeah, that is true. Yeah. Also, he plays for the Sounders. Is that not enough? You like Jordan Morris sucks because he went to Stanford?
I mean,
if the shoe fits,
not saying it.
We love Jordan Morris. Seattle Reign FC are ready to begin the season this Sunday. The Reign bring back 22 players from their 2025 roster. The departures are defender Lou Barnes, who retired after the season, midfielder Ji So-yoon, who left the team in September for a loan to Birmingham City, and forwards Anna Maria Crnogorcevic and Veronica Latsko, none of whom played enormous roles late in the season. Also starting the season without USWNT star Lynn Biandolo, who you'll recall last fall announced her pregnancy. She's due in August. So likely we would not see her until after the break in the season, if at all in 2026. But, the Reign were able to be successful without her in the second half of last season, and again bring back a relatively similar core that's going to have more continuity than last year when there was much more upheaval to the roster. They start the season with a rematch of their last 2 matches of 2025. They have played will have now played 3 consecutive games at the Orlando Pride. They finished the regular season in Orlando, played the two teams had a rematch to open the NWSL playoffs. The Pride won both of those. So Reign trying to stop that streak as they open the 2026 season. Our women's basketball got an impressive win on Thursday in the Big Ten tournament leading by 20 after 3 quarters against USC. They held the Trojans to 31% shooting, including 2 of 13 from star freshman Jazzy Davidson, who aggravated an injury to her non-shooting shoulder during the game. With USC focused on taking away Huskies' leading scorer, Savia Sellers, who did not make a field goal and scored just 4 points. El Ladine stepped up and took advantage of the opportunities with the season high 25 points. Avery Howell had 18 points and 9 boards. Huskies got the win they needed to sort of solidify their seed in the Big Ten tournament. And then on Friday, faced off against number 2 UCLA. They actually led the Bruins after 1 quarter, saw them regain control with a 15-0 run during the second period. It ended up an 18-point margin for UCLA, the second of UCLA's 5 smallest conference wins to that point, which came against UW, which also played them tough down at Pauley Pavilion. The Bruins did play a closer semifinal with Ohio State, but to put the fact that the Huskies lost by only 18 and were up at after a quarter in context, the Bruins then beat Iowa by 51
It's ridiculous.
in the Big Ten tournament final. Howell again had 18 points to lead the Huskies. Lauren Betts paced UCLA with 26. So now we wait because of the format of the major conference tournaments in the women's game. Everybody gets a week off until Selection Sunday. See where the Huskies are headed. They're holding steady at a 7 seed in ESPN bracketology. I have seen CBS Sports, I believe, had them as a 6. That's the only spot I've seen them that high. I don't know where they ended up in the net ranking. I think that puts them as a 7, although kind of the Bart Torvik metrics.
They were like 19 in Bart Torvik, right?
Yeah, would have them is a 5 or a 6. Yeah, they're
I went
26 in the
to
net ranking.
Bart Torvik when you were talking about the seeding, and it was accidentally on the min. And I was like, the number 52, I think the Huskies were like 47 at the time when I looked at it. But I was like, that translates to a 7 seed? And then I clicked over I realized that because it says at the top NCAM as if that's like the one that you'd be clicking over to on Bart Torvik. Then I went to women and I was like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. But I mean, 19 in there, this is the type of team that should be winning in the first round at the very least.
Yeah, you would think so, which would be the first win in the NCAA tournament for UW women's basketball since 2017. Obviously, the first win for either men or women since 2019. And this is the first time already. Well, I mean, obviously they haven't technically accomplished it, but it will be their first time in the round of 64 since 2019 for either the men or the women, because the women lost in the first 4 last year to Columbia.
I know we'll find out obviously on Sunday who they're playing. Are there any 2 seeds that look beatable at all? Obviously the 1 seeds are like, they're just not beating, right? UConn, UCLA, people like that.
That's a good question. Let me take a look at the bracketology.
Is there a preference that we have for those 2 seeds and what region end up in? If it is a 7 seed,
the 2 seeds are Vanderbilt, LSU, Iowa, and Duke right now.
I mean, Iowa, didn't they just lose by 51 points?
They did. That was an outlier. The Huskies have lost to Iowa. I believe that game was in Iowa City, if I remember correctly. So which is the exact scenario they would face here, because you're going to be on the road. I mean, Vanderbilt.
I was the lowest in Bart Torvik.
Interesting. Yeah, Vanderbilt's coming off a pretty disappointing loss to Ole Miss in the SEC tournament. LSU to me is the strongest of those teams, I would say. I would say LSU is the team you really don't want to face. And Duke is probably the second strongest of those teams, even though I think that Bart Torvik might have Vanderbilt higher.
Even just no, he's got Vanderbilt at 9.
Oh, okay.
Duke is 7. But even seeing that those teams have lost games, I think is like a lot of these teams, I'm sure it's against other very, very good teams that they're losing. But like what you were saying about Vanderbilt losing to Ole Miss in the SEC tournament.
I mean, also, by the way, they could not face Iowa.
Why?
Because they're both in the Big Ten. You can't face.
Oh, you can't in the.
Yeah. I don't know what the rules are anymore, because there's just like all Big Ten and SEC teams in the women's tournament. But definitely not before the Sweet 16. Can you?
Okay, so it likely, if they do end up being a 7 seed, would be one of LSU, Duke, or Vanderbilt.
And it also complicates things if they move up to the 6 line, because bracketology has 2 of the 4 3 seeds as Big Ten teams. Ohio State, who they did beat. No, actually, Ohio State they lost to at home. Michigan they did beat at home.
I wonder if that would even be a consideration, almost like dropping if it's going to be clogged with Big Ten teams in that next round matchup, if they might drop UW down to avoid that.
I think you could probably figure it out. It still gives you a 50-50 chance. But yeah, I mean, certainly I mean, these teams are not unbeatable. I think the Huskies, were they in what seed were they in the Final Four year? I don't really remember that off the top of my head. They probably were a 6 or were they an 11 that year? They were the number 7 seed. So they beat number 2 Maryland at Maryland. So it is a doable thing.
I mean, they're also going to be underseeded wherever they're at, 6 or 7.
A little bit. I mean, it's not like they're hugely underseeded. All right, men's basketball. So we're going to dispense with the full recap here, I think. A few notes from their 91-72 win last Wednesday versus USC. Frank Kepnong did go through senior day festivities alongside Jacob Anasovic and Kimari Peterson, but will have the option of returning for the 7th year. Danny Sprinkle confirmed as part of that.
Well, and also that 7th year doesn't have to be at UW.
Also true. Does not have to be. Although a lot of the years have been a surprising number of years. People talk about the lack of continuity in men's basketball. Frank Kepnong all by his lonesome is holding on to the Mike Hopkins era. We mentioned the huge game for Steinbach. Zoom Diallo had a career highs with both 26 points and 9 rebounds in that game. So that was exciting to see. Huskies lost Saturday at Oregon. Were down by as many as 22. Came back to make it an interesting game. They were down 2 in the final seconds. Hannes Steinbach misses. Sprinkle thought he was fouled. Gets ejected from the game in a situation where they still potentially could have won. And then the ensuing free throws made that impossible. So that was not great.
Are you mad at Danny Sprinkle for that?
I don't think it was a good decision.
But you think that was... Do you think there's any value in Danny Sprinkle just basically like, it's been a long season?
I understand it. I don't think there's any value in it.
Do you think for the players, though, like seeing him defend them in that way, you don't think there's...
I think he could have done that after the buzzer.
Okay. How could they have still... Like, they could have fouled and then...
I mean, they had fouled. So Kwame Evans was headed to the free throw line. I think he ended up shooting the technicals. So,
did it look like a terrible call to you? Do you feel like Hannes was fouled?
Not particularly. I mean, my position on these sorts of things.
I know, yeah.
But it was eerily similar to Dan Hurley getting ejected in the same situation with much less time on the clock earlier in the day. And I didn't think there was a foul there either. So,
these coaches are just kind of fed up. Honestly, if I'd been watching every single moment of college basketball refereeing, do you know how fed up I would be right now?
I suppose that's fair. But what if you had been watching every moment of this UW men's basketball season?
Both. Danny Sprinkles had to do both of those things.
There was 5 seconds left. And Kwame Evans Jr. ended up getting 6 free throws between the 2 technicals, and he had been fouled to go to the line. And he split his first 2, made the next 4. So,
can I give a for who for what in this situation?
I'm sure you can. I just didn't love it from a process standpoint.
But the game didn't. The Huskies would have been seeded exactly the same in the Big Ten tournament. Is that right?
I guess they would.
Are we worried about an at-large bid?
We are not. I mean, we're worried about every time you play Oregon, you want to beat Oregon.
I get it. I agree from that standpoint, but also, I'm going to say it for who for what also.
So in the Big Ten tournament, they will, again, possibly long before you listen to this, take on USC at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday morning at the United Center. The winner takes on Wisconsin on Thursday, also at 11:30, if the Huskies do beat the Trojans, who are also dealing with their own injuries and a very disappointing season under their second-year head coach, Eric Musselman. The winner takes on Wisconsin on Thursday. You'll recall how that went the last time the Huskies hosted Wisconsin, which was not great.
Wisconsin's not unbeatable.
Oh, now you're talking yourself into it.
I
Wow.
root for who do they play? Who do they most likely play if they beat Wisconsin?
Oh, I have not gone that far in the Big Ten
Okay,
tournament
don't
bracket.
look. Don't look.
Well, I'd like to just look up at the bracket on Ken Palm and see what he's got here.
And the network for that game tomorrow says seek help.
Says, why do we even watch men's college basketball? Okay, so they would face Illinois most likely.
3-0 right there.
Illinois
Who's healthy, by the way, for these games?
The Huskies have 7 players. So I think one of the takeaways from this stretch is it's been a lot of Cortland Muldrow, and he's actually provided a bit of a spark for the Huskies. Played 26 minutes at Oregon, 16 minutes against USC, had 9 points in both of those games, had 7 points in the Wisconsin game in 24 minutes. This is someone who, before the Nebraska game, had not played more than 11 minutes all season, and that came against Southern Utah in a 36-point win. So, absent the injuries as a freshman would not really have factored into the Huskies' plans at all. And, he needs to improve as a shooter. He's 3 of 14 from 3, but, has just been energetic enough to help out.
He's going to go out and get himself Malik Willis money with this.
I don't know about that. It's men's college basketball in the unlimited transfer era. So the idea that you're sort of building something is always questionable. But Zoom Diallo has had a really terrific sophomore season. Wesley Yates, I think there's been some ups lately as he's gotten healthy, which has been encouraging.
Do we feel like there's a better obviously knowing the coupon relationship and everything with Wesley Yates and having left and then come back, does it feel like maybe they have a better chance of trying to keep Zoom? And there's money, obviously, it's not like the program is broke.
No, they have the money. Yeah. I think the biggest thing in college basketball is just like, well, imagine free agency, except instead of 30 teams, there's 100 teams that are legitimate options. So what are the odds that you of those 100 teams are going to value the player on your roster the most? Not very much, probably. And that's, I think, why there's so much turnover. But if they can get those guys back, I think there are some things to build on. My buddy John Hollinger of The Athletic wrote a piece today talking about Hannes Steinbach's options and saying that sort of he had a decision to make between
he's gone,
being a mid-first round pick and that it's like a plausible option given how much you can make in NIL now, that it would make sense to come back if you aren't a guaranteed lottery pick. So
fair enough.
Don't give it a high odds, but it's not inconceivable.
I mean, I would rather Hannes go to the NBA than transfer somewhere.
I'd agree with that.
But could UW be willing? Obviously, UW is going to value Hannes a lot. I don't know what kind of money there is, the competing money at the bigger schools. And I'm sure that basically any school in the country would be excited about having Hannes.
It's true. And it's a question also of, does he want to be somewhere where he's got a chance to compete for something?
It's going to be a fascinating one. I still really don't buy that he's not going to the NBA.
It's a lot more plausible than AJ DeBonsa not going to the NBA. He had 40 tonight. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. Yes. Sure. Yes, I agree that that's more plausible. But I just still think he's one and done.
Most likely. All right. That's UW men's basketball. Softball swept Northwestern by a combined 25-6 total, including a doubleheader.
There we go.
After Friday's season opener was paused by rain. Giselle Alvarez had a 3-run homer Saturday, grand slam Sunday. Huskies stay home this weekend to host Maryland. The Terps went 1-2 to start the Big Ten season at home against Rutgers. All right, let's wrap up with the Seahawks. Anything going on? So NFL free agency is not technically started yet, but in your beloved legal tampering period, most of the top free agents are off the board, including all the Seahawks of note.
I'm really trying to look at our percentage chances here.
Oh, I did the math here.
Okay, there we go.
It's bad. The math is bad. So Ken Walker III was one of the first dominoes of free agency, signing with the Chiefs a 3-year, $43 million deal with nearly $29 million guaranteed. Do you want to talk about this one individually or go through all of them?
Let's go through all of them first.
Okay.
Not that anybody listening doesn't know about these things, but
Right. Boye Mafe goes to the Bengals on a 3-year, $60 million deal. Kobe Bryant to the Bears, 3 years, $40 million. Seahawks then retain Josh Jobe on a 3-year, $24 million deal. And in a bit more noteworthy of outcome, Rashid Shaheed on a 3-year, $51 million deal. We have so because of the fact that Jobe and Shaheed were re-signing with the team, you're legally allowed to do that now before free agency is technically open. Those contracts are in. We have the details on most of the details on them. Shaheed gets a $20 million signing bonus, but this year's base salary is the only base salary that's guaranteed, meaning this could essentially be a 1-year, $23 million deal, more likely a 2-year deal for $35 million, or then they can run it the full 3 years for 51. And then lastly, on Tuesday, I like the Seattle Times described it as after a long wait, Rick Woolen has a
a
new
day. You
It's
made it
been
for a
30
day.
hours. But in free agency terms, it actually was probably pretty notable that he was still on the board. A 1-year deal for up to $15 million with the Eagles. I believe I saw reported somewhere that it's around a $12 million base value to that deal. So very much a prove it deal for Rick Woolen. Okay, there we are.
Do you want to talk about our percentage chances really quick?
If you sum up the errors in our percentage chances, you had 275% wrong across those 6 players, for an average of that's if you just put 50-50 on every player, you'd get a 300% combined error, I believe.
So
I
wait,
had,
did I do worse than 50-50?
no, you did better than 50-50.
There we
Not
go.
by much. I had a 273% combined error, so 2% better than you.
Damn it. I thought that was 2% worse. I
Oh
thought I wanted
no,
to get a higher score on this
no,
one,
you
not
want
a
the low
lower one.
scores here.
Ugh. I did not I just saw a 2.75 and a 2.73. I had no idea what they meant, but
Yep.
some sort of complicated math. I I honestly, it's just when you win the Super Bowl, you're gonna have a strange free agency after, no matter what. And I feel like this has been a pretty strange free agency. I mean, the Boye Mafe deal and honestly the Kobe Bryant deal were when we were talking last week, I definitely did not expect Boye Mafe. I don't know what the guarantees look like in there, but to have probably the biggest deal of any of these players.
It is interesting. I mean, the 20 million average is right up there. Like one of the things I want to talk about is the 2022 Seahawks draft class. So Charles Cross and Abe Lucas, by virtue of signing extensions, essentially got new contracts as well without going through free agency. And Cross is a 5-year deal, so there's a little more, long-term commitment, but he got around the same average salary as Boye Mafe. That is kind of shocking to me, I would say. So yeah, I mean, it kind of depends how much you believe his pass rush win rate has always been very strong from our friends at ESPN Analytics. So
I mean, PFF grade 46 out of 115 edges. That's a starting edge right there. Like, whether a starting edge is worth that kind of money, I don't know. I think he might
that's
have been a
still a
little
plus. That's still at least an average starting edge, or probably a better than average starting
yeah.
edge.
And
But
so
but average starting edge would be 32, not 46.
that would be an out. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
But it's still a starting edge.
Yeah.
But obviously the PFF grade isn't entirely it. And I do think there's a premium based upon just being on the Seahawks defense for Boye Mafe. The Kobe Bryant number, I mean, he was one who I thought would be back, partially just because I thought it would look pretty similar to the Josh Jobe deal.
Well, I didn't expect that. I mean, I thought it was going to be around the ballpark of the
But we
Cam
talked
Curl
safeties,
contract.
safeties were very undervalued not that long ago in free agency. Draft safeties aren't that highly valued. When you're talking about a cornerback who's been a pretty successful cornerback versus a safety, the positional value is not the same.
Well,
at
I
those
think
two
that
positions.
probably there was some question marks about how much Job was a product of the Seahawks scheme more so than Kobe Bryant. And
I just don't know how you could parse out where it's like Job, yes, Bryant, no.
And in terms of being part of the
Yeah.
scheme, I mean, I guess I would say that Kobe Bryant played a more prominent role in the Pete Carroll era. Josh Jobe wasn't a part of that.
Okay.
So, and I mean, there's also the pedigree element. Like Kobe Bryant, it's a little weird to discuss his draft stock because he was drafted as like an outside corner and then moved to nickel and then moved to safety. It's been quite a voyage for Kobe Bryant, but where was he drafted? He was in the fourth round. I mean, Job was someone who had bounced around the league pretty considerably. I don't think it's terribly surprising to me.
Same thing, PFF grade, 45th out of 98 safeties. Like, he's kind of fine. And again, you're starting two of them, but I kind of feel like a lot of these players are they're okay players. And that's where I maybe push back against you a little bit, where you think that the Seahawks are losing massive value. Because I feel like you seem more concerned about the amount of value that the Seahawks are losing this offseason. And I think the answer
I don't
is
think they're doing anything wrong. I mean, there's none of these contracts that I look at and like, oh, I would love to pay that. I think the value they're losing. So here's what I went through and looked at.
okay.
If you take their 2022 draft class, so the four guys who left, plus Charles Cross and Abe Lucas, combined those players on their next contracts, on their new contracts, are averaging about 100 million per season.
It's incredible.
Last year they had a combined cap hit of 25 million.
I
They're losing massive value. But also, I think the point of that is not to say you need those guys in free agency. The point is you need to keep drafting.
No, and that's my takeaway from all free agencies, seeing all the numbers, because the goal of building an NFL roster is having a handful of expensive players at key positions, right? The Seahawks have those players. And when I look at the roster, I'm really just like, is this team good? It's kind of a strange thing that they just won the Super Bowl. And I do think the most valuable thing that the Seahawks have is the head coach, but like, and the defensive scheme at this moment, because ultimately
I think the most valuable thing they have is Jackson Smith and Jigba.
When that too, but like, so they have a quarterback who's going to be a very expensive cornerback. They have a receiver who's going to be a very expensive receiver, and they have a quarterback who's a moderately expensive quarterback, not extraordinarily expensive. And they also have a left tackle who's like a pretty expensive left tackle. The Seahawks have expensive players in all of the right places. And the way to have a good roster beyond that is basically to have a bunch of players who are their value on the field is exceeding the amount that you're paying them. That's kind of how you structure an NFL team, right?
I mean, that's how you structure any team in a salary cap system.
But re-signing almost any of these players, like, you're going to be looking at negative value vis-a-vis the contract as far as output. I mean, Tariq Woolen is debatable, right?
I mean, but I think ultimately seeing the contract that he took, number one, like, I think you were right in generally thinking that the NFL would not value Tariq Woolen that highly. And number two, I think the Seahawks were just like, we're good.
No, they absolutely were. Like, I don't think the Seahawks were even really having conversations with Tariq Woolen. It was like, goodbye, thank you.
I mean, yeah, you had the 0%. You were right on that one. The 90% on Ken Walker the third. That was a hit for you.
I mean, I was genuinely shocked that they didn't. I'm shocked that they didn't just pay Ken Walker this number. I'm impressed to a certain extent, but my main takeaway was like, I don't think they should have re-signed any of these players, and I don't think that any team across the NFL should have signed any of the players that they signed.
Well, to these contracts, I think they should have signed
to the contracts that they signed, because I'm just like, the amount of value that almost any of the players who signed over these last couple of days, and the one that to me I was like, I don't know, is Rashid Shaheed.
So, I mean, I think that's the discussion worth framing here is, Rashid Shaheed ended up with slightly more on an annual basis than Ken Walker the third, but this is sort of to the extent that running backs have regained value in free agency the last couple of years. Bill Barnwell, I think, has highlighted this, that oftentimes teams are sort of deciding between a wide receiver 3 and a starting running back at similar amounts of money. And that, maybe you can get more juice for your offense with the starting running back than the wide receiver 3, which I guess is Shaheed's role. Maybe he becomes wide receiver 2 next year if Cooper Kupp, ages another year. It'll be interesting. Now, obviously, Shaheed brings the return value that, is difficult to quantify. But the other part of this is the Seahawks do have somewhat more depth at wide receiver, depending on what they know about Torrey Horton's health than they do at running back, where Zach Charbonnet is going to miss much of next season, presumably with the ACL tear. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that.
I mean, I really like Rashid Shaheed as a player, but he also had 188 yards on the year for the Seahawks.
I do think that having a whole offseason to work with Sam Darnold and yes, he had been in Clint Kubiak's system before, and it's funny, now actually will be a new offensive coordinator, but I think the rhythm with the quarterback is probably an underrated element. Like, obviously you can change teams and be successful as a pass catcher, but I do think that was, especially on a team that doesn't throw the ball very much, that was probably a particularly hard transition for him.
I don't mean to say that running backs matter, but I think that they're going to feel that Ken Walker lost the most of any of these players.
And he's the least replaceable.
I also, Ken Walker and
currently.
Zach Charbonnet are not apples to apples. Ken Walker was way better than Zach Charbonnet was last year.
I don't know. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
I got to look up some VenB charts on that before I'm willing to concede that.
Wait, are those on RBSDM?
No, I think they got to go to the social account for these. So hold on, I'm going to take a look because he posted
take a look.
the other day.
I mean, also, like, again, PFF grade, what it is. Ken Walker was second among running backs last year. Ken Walker was, again, my friend texted me about it, and he was like, so happy Shaheed's back. Sucks about Ken Walker. And I was like, really? It was right when I started liking him that
yes.
They let Ken Walker go. The other piece that
in terms of yards above expectations, Charbonnet was slightly ahead of Ken Walker in terms of yards over expected. So this stat is not
kind of shocking to me.
I mean, I think, like, also Charbonnet was, his yards per carry tended to look much worse, but that was also him being the short yardage back. So
where did Ken Walker rank? Is it
among
just
all
those
running
two,
backs?
or were they both pretty good as far as yards over expected?
They were both pretty fine.
Okay.
Just very solidly fine.
They got Ken Walker involved in the pass game a little bit. The number isn't that big overall in the grand scheme of things for a person who's going to be touching the ball way more than many other people in the field.
So I think two things. Number one, I do think Ken Walker III legitimately improved in terms of his vision and decision making as a running back last year.
Yes.
Number two, running backs tend to age extraordinarily quickly. We know this from experience.
He's 25, and the workload has not been that high.
I do wonder if there was this kind of value for him, why you wouldn't just franchise tag him. Because obviously, if the Chiefs are willing to pay him, approximately $15 million a year over 3 years and guarantee him $29 million, they'd be interested in him on a 1-year, $15 million deal. And like, why you wouldn't just trade him at that point? I mean, I guess I'm not sure I understand that piece of it.
I think they probably just should have brought Ken Walker back. I mean, again, to me, the decision between I like Rashid Shaheed, but I do think impact on the game. But here's the other piece: is I don't know what the Seahawks are going to do now.
So they've been linked to Rachaad White.
I like Rachaad White too, and I like that idea for Rachaad White. If it is Rachaad White and the number is fairly low, then great. Then I'm fine with this decision. They also have very few draft picks. And right now, if it isn't Rachaad, like they can't go into next year. They're not going to go into next year with Sharp and Kenny McIntosh and George Holani. Right?
No, that is not going to happen.
They are going to find themselves somebody who they consider to be a starting running back.
They might add both free agency and the draft. I mean,
they do not have room in this draft to go get a running back.
I don't know that I would rule that out.
Or they don't have room in this. Like, it'd have to be a 6 or I don't know. They're late picks. They have almost none of them. They'll end up with some later round picks throughout the draft.
The other thing to watch here that I'm going to be very curious about is how aggressive they are in terms of protecting the comp picks that they currently have. So there's no like blockbuster contract here that would net you, a 3rd round comp pick, but a 4th for Boye Mafe and a couple of 5ths, multiple 5ths. So, are they going to look to be aggressive trying to sign guys who eventually get waived to backfill this depth? Are they going to potentially use the expectation that they're going to get those comp picks? Could you trade your natural fourth round pick in 2027 for a running back or, someone like that, or an edge, knowing that you've got one coming that you hope is going to fall around the same part of the draft as your own pick, which is that you hope is going to be at the end of the round? Those, I think, are questions worth considering.
I mean, I hope that they do. But I will say some of the other receiver contracts, Rashid Shaheed is just such a difficult receiver to quantify because of the return value, and maybe that is valuable enough. Like it is a boost to Rashid Shaheed's value.
A huge boost, yeah.
But his productivity as a receiver was so much higher in New Orleans than it was here. It also might just be there's going to be so much attention on JSN, or JSN is going to gain so many yards in this offense that there just wasn't room for the ball to go around that much to anybody else. They ran the ball quite a bit in the period that Rashid Shaheed was on the team. But that still leads me back to...
Have we considered, what if your RB1 next year is Rashid Shaheed?
Hello! Whoa! Now you're overpaying for a running back. That's a terrible idea. You're like, what if we make Rashid Shaheed the highest paid running back in the NFL? You're like, it could be 1 year, $23 million for a running back. I don't know. It was a little bit, again, I like Rashid Shaheed though. So at the end of the day, is it going to be fun having Rashid Shaheed back, returning punts and returning kicks, and hopefully being more involved in the offense? Of course. But I do think structurally, just like whenever free agency happens, I always think to myself, I would be the exact opposite of the LA Rams and fuck them picks. I would go so extreme out of my way to have 15 draft picks every year.
But that's the lie of fuck them picks, is that
they're saying fuck them.
It's actually fuck them first round picks.
Yeah.
And maybe seconds a lot of the time too.
I think they've had some years where they didn't have.
The Rams typically love compensatory picks.
It is the best way to build a roster. Like all of these numbers, and Boye Mafe was a second round pick, right? Yes. I think Boye Mafe came over as part of the Frank Clark trade, right? That pick, the pick that was Boye Mafe.
I thought Boye Mafe came as part of the Russell Wilson trade.
Oh, maybe that was it. It was the Russell Wilson trade. He was that second round pick that they got for the Broncos. But which granted,
in 2024, the Rams made 10 picks. In 2023, they made 15 picks.
Is this not like, are those 25 players not a bulk of their roster?
Yeah. I mean, Puka Nacua is in there. Jared Verse, Braden Fiske. So, yeah.
But I'm just like, I would just
Kobe Turner
load up on when you see the numbers. I mean, of all these receivers, I feel like we look at it and we're like Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, Romeo Doubs, the numbers that they're getting. Those players are probably not going to exceed the value of their contracts. Christian Kirk got a big deal too. Like just because other receivers are getting big numbers in free agency doesn't mean that's the actual value of those players, because the value is what you're getting on the field from them as opposed to the expense that you're paying. Not just, well, if this person hit free agency, that's what their value is. Does that make sense?
I mean, yes and no. There's multiple ways to define value, but the amount they're hoping you win is that, yes.
And also, like, I mean, what did the Seahawks trade for? Was it a fourth round pick that they traded? A fifth round?
Fourth and a fifth.
A fourth. That's like they've traded real draft capital for Rashid Shaheed. But if they were to turn around and try to trade, if they could have, in a hypothetical world, tried to trade Rashid Shaheed after this year, like, I don't know what the value is.
Well, he'll be on a wildly different contract. I mean, part of the reason he had that much value is because he was making $3 million or whatever he was making last year.
So, but I like Rashid Shaheed. It is a contract that's get offable. There's so much money coming after this. I'm not sure what the Seahawks should have done. I think they probably made the right decisions on. I would have maybe considered just bringing Ken Walker back rather than going the route of Rachaad White or whomever, where it was like they're turning their attention to Tyler Algier. It's like, sure.
Tyler Algier is off the board at this point.
I know, but like, it just kind of felt to me like maybe they should have just done that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have made that decision if I would have chosen Shaheed over Ken Walker.
I don't know.
But it's I don't feel particularly strongly about it. And the other reality is they just won the freaking Super Bowl. So like whatever John Schneider does right now is kind of like we're just gonna trust him in that process.
Let Schneid's cook. I mean, the amount of dooming on Seahawks social media
Is there dooming? How could we doom?
Of course
They
there's
won
dooming.
a borrowed time Super Bowl. Like I really would just like pulled into the driveway the other day and was reflecting on it, and I was like, we just won the like. I remember this season. I don't know how all of that happened.
I agree.
We just kind of won the Super Bowl
And dominated. But oh no, they're doomed now because of the fact that they lost Kobe Bryant.
I thought you were more upset about that. I thought you were dooming about this.
I mean, they lost a lot of talent. It's not, but just like, some of the one of the things I was thinking about as part of this is like, and related to that comment on the draft class and that analysis, like people think of the draft and the schedule is primary ways that the NFL creates parity. I do think the way that the contracts work also tends to create a lot of parity as well.
That is like small money and then all of a sudden balloons to massive money.
Yeah. So like there is a tax on being good. The tax is you lose your players in free agency. It's like when the Seahawks were good in the Pete Carroll era and they constantly were getting all their players claimed off waivers. Like this is a good problem to have. You don't want no one to want your free agents. That's bad.
Here's the other thought that I had where it's like I do think if you take players like Kobe Bryant or somebody, like his relative skill to 30 other safeties across the NFL.
Well, like how about his relative skill to Ty Okada? Because that's the guy who's replacing him in the lineup.
No, and is Kobe Bryant definitely better than Ty Okada?
I mean, it's better to have both Kobe Bryant.
That we both shrugged.
It's better to have both Kobe Bryant and Ty Okada than just Ty Okada. I think that's better. But safety is one of those spots where I think either A, you can make a new Ty Okada.
Ty Okada was 17th PFF wise.
I mean, or you can go out and sign veteran help there, relatively cheap. Someone who got waived. I think that's the kind of spot where you can add someone who got waived, not affecting your comp picks.
I mean, wasn't it Devin Bush just got a big deal here?
Devin Bush did get a big deal
this offseason.
That was kind of shocking. I agree.
I would not
also,
sign
who else got a big deal? Dre Jones.
Did he really?
Wow, that was a thing. We sure are making that same decision again.
But I think as far as like underlying talent, like can the Seahawks find another player who's as good as Kobe Bryant? I think yes. That's where I'm like, I don't know if they are. I don't know if they could go into free agency and find somebody who's as good as Ken Walker. Like, I don't know if Rachaad White necessarily is.
I think that's a tough place to go into free agency. I'm higher on drafting a running back in the middle rounds than you are. Dre Jones did have 7 sacks last year. I'm higher on drafting a running back in the middle rounds because I'm assuming the Seahawks are going to be picking up more middle round picks via trading down from 32.
Again, I like Rachaad White. This is all positive. I have no negative perspectives about Rachaad White. I guess we don't know what the dollar amount is.
The question is, like, is that worth a 5th round comp pick?
I think Rachaad White is worth a 5th round comp pick. How old is he? 20. He's 27. So he's a couple years older than Ken Walker. He was fairly productive last year, but he hasn't, the receiving, he's just a different type of running back than Ken Walker is. And the receiving is a huge part of what Rachaad White brings to the table. He has almost always been in a platoon. He only had 132 carries last year and played in 17 games. So it truly would be like Sharb and Rachaad White. It's like a true platoon, not a like 1A and 1B in the way that
that's fine by me.
Ken Walker and Sharb were. I think that's probably fine if the number is fairly low. But and I think if they do find a pick to draft the mid-round running back, then sure. But those players aren't a slam dunk. Like you can hit anytime you want on a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th undrafted running back. That doesn't mean that every 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round running back is going to be good.
Without question, but I think that's why you saturate that, especially with the undrafted.
How about this? Here's a bold prediction right here. I think the Seahawks will have a preseason 6-round or lower running back, maybe undrafted, claim the starting job.
Define claim the starting job.
He will be. I bet they'll announce Sharp as the number 1 running back week 1 or
I don't
whatever.
think Sharp's going to be healthy week 1.
Or honestly, if he's not healthy, then it might just be outright he's the starter. Right? Thursday night football, as the season starts,
Or Wednesday.
You've got.
Do you not know about
Wednesday?
this?
That's a possibility. It's on a Wednesday.
Well, they're playing the game in Australia. So
That's on
either
the Thursday.
Well, they have not decided. Either Rams Niners is the first game of the season, and the Seahawks aren't the first game of the
If
season.
they don't give us the first game of the season, if they give 2 other division rivals who we crushed multiple times throughout the season the first game of the year instead of us, that'll give us something to be mad about. As if we're not mad enough about free agency, I guess. I don't know.
Seahawks social medias. Yes, that'll be the rallying cry that Mike McDonald can use all year. How dare they not give us the.
But I do think Boye Mafe I actually think is good. I think you'd kind of underrated Boye Mafe, and he had the pedigree. He was drafted fairly high, right?
Again, it's not that I think that Boye Mafe was worthless. It's just that I thought, especially in the context of what did happen with the draft picks, that having a mid-round draft pick would have been more important to the Seahawks the rest of the season than Boye Mafe. That's partially, I don't know, and we'll see. Like, that's partially my belief in Mike McDonald to make a new Boye Mafe. We'll see.
I mean, that's kind of the takeaway to me, though, is like, if you're a good enough coach right now, and who knows how long that'll last for, but the scheme is obviously the scheme plus the players that they have to place in it. Because we saw Mike McDonald without some of these players last year, and the defense wasn't good. It got there by the end of the year, but like early on in the season, it needed a few pieces across the board, the defense. With the pieces that the Seahawks have in place with Devin Witherspoon, with Nicky Manwari, Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence, players like that, Ernest Jones. Like, with those players in place, I do think the extra pieces is what Mike McDonald is very, very good at. Turning players like Ty Okada into a top 15 player by PFF. And being able to just get everybody into the right places scheme-wise defensively, except against the Rams.
On that note,
thanks for listening.
Thanks. We'll be back next week, hopefully, with more on the Seahawks backfilling the roster in free agency.
And talking about a Husky basketball NCAA tournament bid. Let's freaking go.
Oh, wow.
Hey, I didn't say which team.
Oh, good point. Yes. Good point.
I went after the Italy game. Got myself a celebratory Shamrock Shake. I'm telling you,
Italy win quite like. I mean, it is green. I get it. So Shamrock Shake. Oh, the Shamrock Shake hits. I'm not.
Have you had one this year?
No, I've not had one in quite some period of time. Because I've looked at the health content of shakes. And I was like, yeah, I'm good.
You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, I've just made a huge mistake.
Is it just mint? I normally don't like mint things, but for some reason, the fact that they call it Shamrock makes it not taste like mint. I'm not even joking.
Just in here, test case for advertising works.
Don't you agree?
Sort of. I mean, I do like mint chocolate chips, so
I would never order a mint item basically anywhere. I
mean, it does suffer from the, this is something on the Food News podcast that Jacoby has often talked about, like the I think he calls it the Rocky Road. I don't know, the Rocky Road problem that, like, I like this flavor, but do I like it more than all the other flavors that are here? Almost certainly not.
That's the problem that mint has.
If the only option was mint chocolate chip, I'm definitely eating mint chocolate chip. But if I've got mint chocolate chip and other options, then I'm probably going to take one of the other options.
I think you're not factoring in enough that a World Baseball Classic game was exciting enough to me.
That's okay. You're right. Yes, I do need to back up. Wow.
It really felt unexpected because I just assumed, like, even when Italy went up, I think they were up 2-0 at first, or maybe it was 3-0 in the second inning.
I had forgotten this game was happening tonight entirely until it was 8-0 or 8-3 or 8-0. So that's when I tuned in.
I really like Luca was like, if I'm good enough, I'll play, because this is things that we're thinking about, of course. He was like, I'll play for the US team. And I was like, you like hell you will play for the US team
Oh wow.
in the World Baseball Classic. Like,
you know what? Luca will be playing for the US team and you will be cheering for Italy against him.
they told a story.
You'll
Roman
just be out
Anthony
there.
has multiple members of his family named Anthony.
They did. I want to fact check that story.
It is really just like every story about his name is literally Roman. And he chose to play for the American team.
It was Giuseppe Rossi was the American forward who
Oh.
chose to play for the Italian national team, right?
Oh yes. But that's the thing that I prefer. Go play for a worse team, but represent your not country.
So you're saying this was not okay for Giuseppe Rossi to play for the Italian national team
No,
because they're
well,
better?
yeah, kind of. No, I'm okay with it if he's going to play for the Italian team, of course. No, his father and brother are both named Anthony. A naming style described as, quote, very Italian. Thanks, AI overview.
Is that the thing Italians are known for? Naming
I
it?
know.
It's just
I
like
don't
we
know.
love the naming.
They said that.
First
Where I was
off,
like,
Anthony,
it's not like
it was a
the
little confusing
most
because
Italian name.
Anthony itself is not an Italian last name. Antonio might be, but Anthony isn't. You know where Giuseppe Rossi spent a couple of seasons?
Where's that?
Playing
LA
for
Galaxy.
Genoa.
Oh, hello. Did he play for the Galaxy?
No. I think they might have had a different Rossi.
Okay. But no, so yeah, Luca was like, I would play for the American team. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's like our fights about college too, where he's like, if I'm good enough, I would like consider playing for Vanderbilt or Oregon State or whatever. And I'm like, no chance. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm gonna be like a crazy father in the crowd for these situations. I was like, you do not have a choice about where you are going if you are good enough at baseball or in life otherwise. Baseball or not.
He's touching 75 on the gun now.
He is, yes.
That is wild.
That was actually a little crazy, to be honest.
I'm trying to think what the fastest pitch I've ever faced is. I don't know if I've ever faced a pitch 75 miles an hour.
He's very scary to hit against.
I can imagine.